welcome to Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard, also known as Police Commissioner Linda Bernard for the City of Detroit, the Motor City, and you are more than welcome here today with us on Facebook Live, on Twitch, Twitter, and on YouTube as well. Please feel free to follow us, subscribe, and just let us know what you think. And WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the nation. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, today our format's a little different. I'm going to talk about some timely topics here in the city of Detroit that are pressing on the minds of everyone here because they're front page news. The most recent story that has caught everyone's attention, of course, revolves around a young brother who is in the state legislature. He represents the city of Inkster and that outlying community. Unfortunately, he was arrested for a DUI, driving under the influence, about maybe 7 or 8 weeks ago. Of course, that made front page news, and of course, he was very sorry that occurred. But as you probably know, you can be arrested for a DUI at 0.08%. It's called breath alcohol content back, 0.08 back, breath alcohol content, and they get that reading as a result of you blowing into a tube from your lungs. That lung reading, of course, will tell them how much alcohol you have absorbed in your system. So Joel Jones was stopped for a DUI. He blew into the breathalyzer, which incidentally you absolutely must cooperate with when you are stopped. I say this as an attorney because as a lawyer in Michigan, I handle these cases from time to time. And when you get a driver's license in the state of Michigan, you drive in the state of Michigan, there is an implied consent that is implicit when you apply for and pay for the license. And that implied consent is that, if in fact you are stopped by a law enforcement officer and you are requested to breathe into a breathalyzer, you have to do it. Otherwise, you lose your license for a year. And that's a Secretary of State penalty. It has nothing to do with the actual statute. And you have to go to court. It's a misdemeanor, so to speak, here in the state of Michigan. You have to go to court and explain why. And generally, you would be convicted of failing to, because it's on video cam now. It's on dash cam and it's on body cam, that you in fact refuse to take the breathalyzer test. So, just as an aside, before I get back to Joel, I want you to understand how important it is that you cooperate with the officer for the breathalyzer. That's number one. You do not have to do the roadside sobriety test. What's that? That is when they tell you to count backwards from 100, put your feet, walk 1 foot in front of the other, heel to toe, all of that kind of stuff. You don't have to do any of that. But you do have to do the breathalyzer if in fact you want to maintain your driver's license. Because once you are ticketed or arrested for DUI, generally you're taken away, as you know, in handcuffs and so forth from the scene. You're not allowed to drive. You're taken to the station. You're usually held for maybe 10 hours or so until the alcohol has subsided in your system. And then you can drive. But of course your car is towed. That's very expensive. And someone has to go get your car, etc. Anyway, they cut up your driver's license at the station house. They take your driver's license. And so if this is if in fact you have, if in fact you did not do the breathalyzer, they cut up your driver's license, and of course you're charged with 2 crimes, because they can then go and get a warrant signed by an assistant prosecuting attorney. People sign these all night long. There's an assistant prosecuting attorney that's on duty every night, and he or she will get a call from the police saying that, for example, Sam Jones did not consent to the breathalyzer. We need a warrant for his arrest because we can smell alcohol, etc., etc. And of course, The duty officer, the attorney, the assistant prosecuting attorney that evening will in fact sign the warrant, and they take you to the hospital. This all happens while you're in the back seat of a scout car. They take you to the hospital, the nearest hospital. They do a blood draw on you, and then of course those results are admissible in court. But you then have two offenses, because if your blood alcohol content is above a point zero 0.08, then of course you violated the statute. But you've also violated the statute regarding implied consent, which says that you have to consent to the breathalyzer. Okay. So in Joel's case, he consented to the breathalyzer, so he blew above a point zero 0.08, and of course they ticketed him for that and arrested him for that offense. Because he's a state legislator, this was, of course, news, because you expect your leaders to not break the law. You expect them to not drink and drink and drive, but of course to be sober when they're driving. Okay, so he goes to jail for that. So that hearing is scheduled. He has, it's going to be a trial, etc. Now, but before we get to back to Joel again, I want you to know the most important thing about this is that there are two sanctions. There is one sanction that deals exclusively with the issue of the implied consent, if you didn't consent. And then and that's, as I said, a statutory violation, and you'll be penalized for that. But in addition to incurring the penalties that you might incur for breaking the law, any law, the fines, the possible incarceration, etc. With respect to driving offenses, there are really two courts. The first court, of course, is the court that you're going to have to appear in, that your ticket was issued through by whatever police department that was. Let's say Farmington Hills or Inkster or whatever it is. You're going to have to appear in that district court on that proceeding. But there's a separate hearing that you have to have before the Secretary of State. There are two ways that you can be, if you will, compromised through this situation. So you have to have a Secretary of State hearing regarding your driver's license, which is not a right, it's a privilege, and then you have a court proceeding regarding the offense itself. So, if in fact you don't breathe into the breathalyzer, then you are automatically your license is automatically suspended by the Secretary of State, and you can request a hearing. But that suspension is a minimum of 1 year. Sometimes they can do like 45 days, and then they'll put a breathalyzer device on your car, the thing you have to breathe into to start the engine and everything. And if you tamper with that, that's a whole nother set of penalties, so I'm not even going to get into that. But I want you to understand the importance of cooperating at the scene. You don't have to walk back and forth. You don't have to recite the alphabet, because very few people can backwards. I certainly can't. But you do have to do the breathalyzer. So, okay. So, Joel does the breathalyzer. It shows that his blood alcohol content is above 0.08. So, he's ticketed, etc., taken to the station like everyone else, car towed, all that. Well, apparently this past week, it was in the paper that now he has been arrested for 2 felonies. And those felonies relate to the fact that when he was being processed on a slightly separate case, when they were processing him to put him in jail, he had a key taped to the bottom of his foot that was the jailer's key. I mean, a handcuff key. I'm sorry, the handcuff key. Apparently someone had given him a handcuff key, and he taped it to the bottom of his foot. So when he got to, I guess he wanted to be able to, according to them, break out of jail. That's a bit of a stretch to me, although that's what he's charged with. He's charged with 2 felonies as a result of, 1, having the key, and 2, the intent, according to the police, was to break out of jail. But a handcuff key is not the big key that they use to open cells, as you and I both know. It's a much bigger lock, probably longer than my hand, and the key, the handcuff key wouldn't do that, but it would allow him to dislodge his handcuffs and of course maybe escape. So this is big news now, and now he's charged with these felonies, and we don't know what's going to happen with the legislature. I assume that he's certainly, I guess, has to take a leave of absence while these charges are pending, and he won't be on the floor of the legislature while all of this is pending. But right now, he's incarcerated, charged with multiple offenses, unfortunately. So so it's very important that that you be aware of what's going on, and be aware of the law, particularly in this issue, in this matter. But we all know that you can't have the key to the handcuffs. I mean, I can't even believe that Joel did that. So I mean, I know Joel. He's a smart young man, handsome young man, cool guy. But this is like really dumb. But then people told me that he's had a lot of emotional and mental issues lately. And so maybe this is all just part of it. Maybe part of this, of course, he's being lambasted in the press. But maybe part of this is, in fact, the emotional issues that he's dealing with or addressing that are unrelated to this offense. But I'll of course keep you updated on what's going on. But I really want everyone to make sure that you understand the severe penalties, both from the Secretary of State's office as well as in court, for driving under the influence. You just can't do it. And it's interesting we're talking about this because last night I was with some friends of mine at the oldest jazz club in America, Baker's Keyboard Lounge on Livernois. You can look it up. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records. And I was watching people and watching them drink and so forth and so on. And and in my mind, all I'm thinking about is wonder what their back is. Wonder what their blood alcohol content would be if they had to blow right now. Would it be ordinary drunk, like at 0.08, which actually is about 2 or 3 beers? That's all it takes. Or would it be super drunk, over 1 point or 1.1? Because the alcohol on your breath, and people drink straight alcohol, Hennessy, etc., vodka, tequila, and so their blood alcohol content, particularly in their breath, is far greater than people would ever think. So just be mindful of this. Please, when you can, first of all, don't drive in the suburbs. If you are a Detroiter, stay in the city. The police are very aggressive, and I say this as a police commissioner. Driving while black is an offense around the city of Detroit, and the city of Detroit ends at a street called 8 Mile, which Eminem made extremely famous, as you know. And so the police on the suburban side of Detroit can stop people on the Detroit side. They make that U-turn. One half of the street is in the city of Detroit, and the north side of the street is in the county in Oakland County, which has an extremely aggressive position regarding drunk driving, and what they consider drunk driving. Please understand that even though it says that that it's drunk driving, it's not really drunk driving. You're not drunk. You don't have to be drunk. Not even close to drunk. It's all based on blood alcohol content. So even though you don't feel it, if you would breathe, if your breath would record it, then you are SOL. You are totally, excuse the expression, shit out of luck, and you will go to jail, and it can cost you up to like $5,000 in legal fees, fines, and penalties in order to get out of this quandary. And I'm not, because you have to have representation both in court for the offense, and then of course you have to pay somebody to represent you, like me, to represent you before the Secretary of State, which is a whole separate hearing and a whole separate proceeding, so that the Secretary of State's sanctions and penalties can be sometimes reduced, of course, by the hearing officer for the Secretary of State. So I want you to be aware of that. And of course, we give our best to Jewel Jones. Again, welcome to Chop It Up with me, Attorney Linda Bernard, also Police Commissioner Linda Bernard, here at WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the nation. You can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, any and all social media platforms. This is the coolest station in the nation, WJZZ Cool TV. Now, the other issue that's come up recently, of course, relates to the City of Detroit City Council. Unfortunately, over the years, City Council members, several of whom have been arrested and or indicted. And now it seems that we're at that juncture once again. And we can't seem to escape it. I guess over the last maybe 20 years, we've had probably about 7 or 8 council people be arrested or indicted or forced to resign as a result of public corruption. And of course, as you and I both know, public corruption is related to people taking money for political favors regarding matters that will come before them. In the past, there have been payments made to waste companies, to sludge companies, companies that want contracts with the city of Detroit, and then they pay, or allegedly pay, city council members in order to get those contracts approved. First of all, I want to emphasize that despite what you may have read in the paper, that any and everyone is innocent until proven guilty. That's not just a presumption of innocence. You are, in fact, innocent until you are convicted. So don't get it twisted by thinking that because, the FBI or something like that or anyone like that is involved or the police are involved, DPD, that these people are guilty of these crimes or that there wouldn't be an investigation if, in fact, unless they had done something wrong. All the time where there's smoke, there's not fire. Sometimes smoke just blew over an area. The wind took it there, or there could be other issues, other things, at stake. You don't know what the relationships are. In many instances, between police organizations and different people in the community. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm just saying, don't misunderstand. I have complete and total confidence in the Detroit Police Department. As a commissioner, I provide oversight to that body. As a lawyer in the United States Supreme Court and a zillion other federal courts and 4 other states, I have complete confidence in the justice system in the United States of America, the federal justice system, in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and of course our Attorney General for the United States. So I'm not throwing stones saying that the FBI doesn't know what they're doing or that they didn't have a reason to do what they're doing, etc. As a matter of fact, I know the U.S. Attorney who is in charge of public corruption for the U.S. Attorney's Office here in the Southeastern District of Michigan. Office is right downtown in the Federal Building. She's a brilliant lawyer, a brilliant African American woman, and you're going to see and hear a lot more about her. But I haven't asked her if I could talk about her on the air, so that's why I'm not telling you her name. But I can assure you that she is a strong sister, and she's really about it. She used to be in charge of public. As a matter of fact, she used to be in doing all drug cases, and now she's in charge of public corruption. And so the FBI, of course, works very closely with the Department of Justice and with the U.S. Attorney on any case. So apparently, there are issues with the Detroit City Council, but I simply urge you, to remember everybody's innocent. Everyone's innocent until they are proven guilty. And they can be proven guilty in a trial, or they can, as we all know, cop a plea. So if till they plead or something like that, I want you as my audience, out of deference everything that has happened in our history as African Americans. Two, reserve judgment. Do not, as Johnny Cochran, who was a friend of mine, used to say all the time, do not rush to judgment. Don't rush to judgment based on a headline. Wait, see, let's get the facts. Let's find out really what's going on. So, these people are being investigated. Detroit City Council members are being investigated. And I want you to just keep in mind that it is simply an investigation. I don't know what's going to come of it. I usually, sometimes when there's an investigation, the investigation is later dropped. Sometimes when there's an investigation, there is a period, when people are indicted or they start with plea negotiations. What we do know for a fact is that council member Spivey has been cooperating with the FBI according to all published reports for about a year and a half now. So I assume that means, as you would assume, that he's talking about his colleagues and about how they do business and what they do. So it's distressing to me. It hurts my heart. It hurts my feelings. One, because, as Reverend Jesse Jackson says, I don't believe that we should, as a community, continue to contribute to the all-black male academy, which is Jackson Prison, or if it's a federal case, of course, Milan Prison, and the various prisons around the United States. We've got to make ourselves de minimis in that population. I want us to be almost 3 million strong in universities and so forth, and in corporations, and in new businesses, and in small businesses. But it is not a badge of honor for us to be the majority of the prison population. I mean, vast majority of the prison population in both state and federal prisons. So let's do all that we can as a community and encourage our friends and colleagues and so forth to not do things, whatever those things may be, to get us for them to wind up in the all black male and all black female academies throughout the United States. So, in terms of the City Council of the City of Detroit, I urge you to take a step back. Remember that an investigation can reach different conclusions. It can reach a conclusion to indict. It can also reach the conclusion to not indict, meaning to charge a person. An indictment is a charge. So I want you to just, chill. We know that it's happening. It's unfortunate. I can't believe it, quite frankly. I mean, it's just very hard to understand how you could even consider such a thing. I'm an elected official. I can't imagine somebody paying me to bribe me to do something. It just makes for a vote. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, for me. Now I don't know about everybody else. I guess it's because of my father, and my father, John Bernard, worked for 50 years walking in the back door of Bloomfield Hills Country Club, which was the fourth richest country club in America, right here in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, which was the fourth richest. Of course, Oakland County was, and Bloomfield Hills was the fourth richest county also in the United States. I mean, it was up there like with Westchester and everything in New York, and Palm Beach and everything in California. Anyway, but Daddy would always say to me, my principles are not negotiable. And if you are a person of principle, then you don't negotiate your principles. I'm not going to steal from you. I'm not going to take a bribe. I'm not bribable because of my principles. It's not because I don't need the money, not because I wouldn't like the money, not because, I'm rolling like in a way that, I don't need the money. That's not true. But it's a matter of principle. You cannot and should not violate the public trust. I can't do it for my current campaign. I'm a candidate again for re-election as we speak. My name, Attorney Linda Bernard, is on the ballot to continue to be a police commissioner for the city of Detroit, for District 2. And I ask everyone to vote for me. But I can't take a bribe. I can't do that. I mean, campaign funds may be low or even non existent. That's not the point. That's not the point. My own heart, my own integrity, my own upbringing, what my father put into me will not allow me to be bought off. And if in fact you make a contribution to my campaign, then whatever issues that are before me that might relate to you, then I would have to abstain from voting. And I would disclose, of course, the potential conflict, because there would be no conflict because I'm not voting on the issue. But I would of course, disclose the potential conflict, because I think you have a right to know. And I also think any candidate has a right to take donations from any legal entity, not of course from a terrorist or terrorist organization or anything like that. But I think that any elected official has the right to take, pursuant to the campaign guidelines. Again, pursuant to the campaign guidelines, they have a right to take donations from businesses and individuals. But it has to be done the right way. And if in fact those donations are taken and an issue involving that entity is before you, then of course you have to abstain. That's all it takes. Easy peasy. But ethics are in government, are clearly important. So it's very unfortunate that our leadership, several members of our leadership, are entangled in this issue now. And the other complicating factor, ladies and gentlemen, is of course the fact that our council president, Brenda Jones, whose offices of course were not raided and who is not the subject of any investigation, she's stepping down from the council. So the established leadership will change, at least in part, although Mary Sheffield will be there, and she is council president pro tem. So she's there too. She's not stepping down, praise the Lord. But and she's a great leader, great woman. I find her to be very principled on many issues. I admire and respect her. She'll become president, but that's a new role for her. And of course, whenever there's a change in leadership, a lot of other things change. So we need to stay posted on this issue. The election for city council is up, just like my election is up here for police commissioner. I'm the only lawyer on the board of police commissioners. I also served for a period as the lawyer for the board of police commissioners. So, I really do know the commission and understand the commission, and was previously managing attorney for the city of Detroit. So I know really how government works and how the department works from an integral standpoint. And I want to talk about that a little bit more, perhaps in our next segment. But I'm your candidate. I am the people's candidate. I've always been a public interest lawyer. I headed legal services for 16 years, representing people who could not afford a lawyer, and creating law centers for children, for the elderly. For people who were HIV positive, an AIDS law center, the largest domestic violence center in the state of Michigan, for example, and also the largest mediation center, alternative dispute resolution, to get people to resolve their disputes personally, one-on-one, with a neutral mediator, and not have a judge, ruling that this is out of order or you're out of order and all that. You're never out of order in a mediation. You have the ability to resolve the dispute and personally fashion a remedy that works for both parties. And that is real dispute resolution. It's not in the court. It's not obviously with the judge. But having said that, I want to remind you again that you are watching Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard, and that you are watching it on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the nation. You can watch us on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or Facebook, And you can also call in and subscribe to the station or call in and ask me questions. So I ask you to do that. Feel free to call in to WJZZ Cool TV and ask specific questions. Having said that, let's talk a little bit about the news of the day. Of course, the news of the week was that California continued to be a Democratic state. I mean, with a Democratic governor, uh, uh, Mr. Newsom. Uh, he's a great guy. I mean, he's a very attractive guy. He's a very charismatic guy. I like Gavin Newsom, and I'm very happy that he won. As you know, the president, President Biden, went out to campaign for him, as did Vice President Kamala Harris. So, and she's a Californian, or was before she moved to Washington D.C. So she is a person that is very recognized, of course, in California and has been involved in California politics because she was their state senator until she became our vice president. So, kudos to Californians and, of course, to Gavin Newsom. Thumbs down to Texas for their abortion law, which really makes no sense. I don't understand it. Not I it's hard for I know that everyone is different and everyone has a different opinion, but it's hard for me to understand why you think it's appropriate with a judicial system that is already overburdened. For example, in Detroit, jury trials have been pushed off for like 3 years, and the same thing is true in federal court here. With a judicial system that is overburdened as a result of the coronavirus because because everyone had to all the courts were shut down. The only thing you can't have a jury trial. You cannot have a jury trial right now in Michigan because of the virus. Because you can't have enough people in the room to adjudicate the case. And you got to separate the jurors, you got to do all this kind of stuff. The stuff you see on TV is good, but I'm just telling you, that's not happening right now. Most judges are not doing it. But you can have a Zoom hearing and have your motion heard or your case heard if you elect to have a judge trial. And let me just say this to you. Depending on the temperament of the judge and the county the judge is in, it's not necessarily a good idea to have your criminal case adjudicated by a judge. You might want to take your chances with a jury of your peers and real people that are sitting there that have life experiences that may be more similar to yours. So, but in Texas, what do? They say everybody can sue everybody. Linda can sue Sharon. I don't even know Sharon, but I can sue her for $10,000 if Sharon took Karen by her in her vehicle to an abortion clinic. It's like, pardon me, what state gives it's called giving someone a private right of action, a right to sue a person for just simply transport that they may or may not even know. As you know, Uber as a company has agreed to pay to handle any litigation for any of their drivers who are sued under this law. Who ever heard of such a thing? You call an Uber with your cell phone, you charge the Uber to your credit card, it takes you from point A to point B, and if Sam sees you going into the abortion clinic, for example, or to a clinic like that, or Sam knows that you had an abortion that day, he can sue that Uber driver. Pardon me? In what part of the world does this make sense? Keeping aside the issue of the fact that it is up to a woman to decide what happens with her body. And they can do this at 6 weeks, which is before most women even know they're pregnant. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, think about how disastrous this is, and how terrifying it is for women who maybe don't want to get their mom or their dad in trouble, but who who elect to have an abortion um, after 6 weeks, like in the eighth, seventh week, or eighth week when they discover they're pregnant. They only missed one period, so they're not. It could be anything. It could be stress. It could be anything. It could be exercise. If you exercise really, really hard, it can throw off a woman's cycle. So therefore, now you can just sue someone and collect $10,000 from them. I mean, the whole concept is ridiculous. In addition to the fact that the legislators, I don't care if they're male or female, who voted for this, are just dead wrong. And if they talk about the sanctity of life, well, what sanctity of life? Texas is a state that has a death penalty. They will push that button and fry me to a frizzle in a heartbeat. That's what they do. That's what they do. They have executed numerous people. So what about the sanctity of life of a living, breathing adult person who, in many instances, even though they may be incarcerated for life, have turned their life around? They've been engaged. I was watching a special on a woman that they executed in Texas. She was involved with two guys. Apparently, it was a horrible crime in the murder of a man and his wife, high on something like LSD, but something that was a totally not like ordinary dope, not heroin, not crack, none of that stuff. The stuff that's psychotropic, a psychotropic medication, or some kind of high. And she had no recollection whatsoever of even being at the place. She had no recollection whatsoever of the crime. So she, of course, is convicted and sentenced to death in the state of Texas. She and the two men. She's on death row for like 18 years, 15, 18 years. During that time, of course, she has no interaction with drugs. She gets her degree. She starts teaching other prisoners, other women in the prison. She sets up a class. She's teaching English. She's teaching literature. She's teaching all kinds of stuff. The most respected inmate in the prison by far, and one of the most intelligent women in her prison. She fights and fights and fights to stay alive, to just have the death penalty removed, but of course continue to live in prison. And I remember watching the family of the persons that she killed outside the prison. They weren't, this was a big deal because a lot of people really wanted, certainly the governor, to commute the sentence. It went to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court did not intervene and did not rule that she could not, that she was no longer subject to execution. So the family of the people that were killed were standing outside, and they were like, killer, friar, all this kind of stuff. And of course there's another group there that's saying, have mercy on her. Have mercy on her. She didn't even remember the crime. It was an awful, awful crime. Should never have occurred. And they couldn't even say that she had done the killing. I think, as I recall, the men had done the killing. But here she is getting ready to die, even though she wants to continue to live and continue to serve a useful purpose while incarcerated. Well, the anger of the people, like the people who wanted to kill Christ, crucify him. Their anger, of course, predominated. At midnight, she was electrocuted. So, this is in Texas. Now they're so concerned about a fetal heartbeat at 6 weeks, which is in the womb, just like a snot. It's nothing. It's just mucus. So they're concerned about this, but they don't care about the woman herself, and they don't care about electrocuting people. They have no problem frying you. We'll fry you tomorrow. But so life is only sacred when it's mucus. It's not sacred when it's an adult person who is making a contribution to society in Texas. I sincerely hope that the case that has been filed by the United States Attorney's Office is successful, and by the various other legal entities throughout the country, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, and others, is successful in getting this law struck down. It's so ridiculous. It's so petty. It's so un-American that I cannot even begin, as a lawyer licensed in Michigan, licensed in Massachusetts, licensed in Pennsylvania, licensed in the District of Columbia, licensed in the U.S. Supreme Court, licensed in the U.S. Court of International Trade, licensed in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, which is the court that Justice Gorsuch just came from, as well as Federal District Court in Michigan and Pennsylvania. I cannot wrap my mind around this concept as a lawyer, and I'm shocked, quite frankly, that any lawyer in America can. It is just outrageous. So I want you to follow this issue carefully. Whether you're a man or a woman, you know that you have a right to control your body. Period. When people tell you that an organ has to be removed, or they recommend that an organ be removed, that your prostate, anything like, doesn't matter. It's your choice. It is a woman's choice to address anything, just like it is a man's choice to address anything in his body, which of course leads us sort of, although I didn't plan to talk about this, about the issue regarding a mandatory edict from the president regarding you have to take the vaccination if you are in a business, I guess, with more than 100 people. That's interesting, isn't it? I just got through talking about the sanctity of everyone, human life, that every person has with respect to their body. If I want to wear blue nail polish, I can. It's my body. It's my nails. If I want to wear no nail polish or black nail polish, I can do that. I can do with my person whatever I want. If I want to wear dreads down to here, or if I don't want to wear ever ordinary clothes, I just want to wear a hijab covering my whole body and half my face, I can do that, and cover my hair. I can do all of that. That's because it's called personal freedom. You are an individual. Every individual has a right to make decisions about their body. But I guess now President Biden and various people have decided you don't have that right. You don't have the right to decide what goes in your body. Now let me make this clear. I think everyone should be vaccinated. However, I'm not political in this issue. I am truly led by the science. And the science says that people who have actually had the virus have 60%, or no, 600%, I believe it is, more anti-corona factors in their blood than people who have not. If you've had the virus, you are better protected than anybody with the vaccine that has taken the vaccine. I've had the vaccine. I did not have the virus, praise the Lord. But I have had both shots of the vaccine. And so, I feel like I'm protected. I was fortunate in that I didn't have an adverse reaction to the vaccine. And I made that choice to get the vaccine, as did my sister. But my niece, Dr. Sharon Miller, who is a licensed physician, OBGYN, nationally and here in the state of Michigan, didn't want to take the vaccine. And she unfortunately had the virus. She contracted it in the hospital. She was out. She recovered successfully. And then, as an aside, ladies and gentlemen, just let you know how the medical profession operates. When she was so bored at home, she got better eventually, and so she was ready to go to work. She passed every test, and she followed the CDC guidelines. So when she could go back to work, she went back to work immediately. And guess what happened? Because she's an OBGYN. She had a patient come in to the ER who was in labor having a baby, and the baby was twisted, so it meant they had to do a cesarean. The lady had full blown corona. Not only did she have full blown coronavirus, she also had full blown HIV AIDS. So here's Sharon Gale with looking like an astronaut getting ready to deliver this baby. She just had recovered herself less than 10 days prior to that from the coronavirus. This lady requires a cesarean section, which means a lot of blood, a lot of everything. So she's trying to save this baby's life, save this woman's life who has AIDS, full-blown AIDS, full-blown coronavirus, and has to have a cesarean because of the position of the baby. She goes in, she does it. That's what medical professionals do. They're not squeamish about dealing with illness and things like that. So kudos to Dr. Sharon Gale Miller, part of the wellness plan, and she delivers most of her babies at Providence. She's delivered more than 3,000 babies. But that, to me, was truly an act of heroism. Having said that, you're listening, and I'm sorry, I guess I'm about a minute late from letting you know that you are watching and listening to Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard, also Police Commissioner Linda Bernard. You are watching this on the coolest station in the nation, WJZZ, Cool TV. You can watch us on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, everything. So I want you to be sure to tune in and to watch us, to like us, to let us know what you think, because I'm very interested in your thinking on all kinds of issues. Now, having said that, there are some other issues that I think deserve our attention. One of them is voting and voting rights. I listened to Steve Harvey today, and he gave this long speech about voting rights and about the importance of our community voting. And I agree with him. We do have the power. We have the power to make a difference in our communities and through the ballot box. But I urge you, in terms of doing that, to pay attention to what people say and what people do. I was very pleased this week to be notified by the UAW Region 1A that they were endorsing my candidacy. I've also been endorsed by the Electrical Union, Region 1 here in Michigan. I've been endorsed by the Black Slate, which is a major organization here that rates candidates in terms of their, not only their legitimacy, but also their ability to serve our community. And I very greatly appreciate that. I've been endorsed by Reverend Christian Adams from Hartford Memorial Baptist Church and the various entities that are associated with that. I've been endorsed by the Rainbow Push organization, and specifically by Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Jr., who is recovering from corona right now in the city of Chicago. I'm very grateful for that, and I'm very grateful for the fact that that God spared his life and that of his wife of 50 years, Jacqueline Jackson. So I have a lot to be grateful and thankful for today and every day. Of course, starting with the fact that I woke up this morning and that I'm able to sit here and talk to you, communicate with you, share whatever knowledge I have with you, and you have the ability to absorb that knowledge and of course, communicate back to me. So I really appreciate today, and I want everyone this afternoon to practice the most important thing I think that we can do as people, other than love, of course, we have to always practice love. We have to practice gratitude. Gratitude is more than a word. Gratitude is my being grateful for my ability to open and close this my hand. I won't even say fist because that's an aggressive term, and I don't want to be. This is not an aggressive moment. Um, Gratitude is important. Gratitude is thank you for this day. Thank you for this studio. Thank you for Roger Penzabany, who had the vision and forethought to create WJZZ Cool TV and create this network, create this global platform that he is utilizing in order to expose the world to Detroit and Detroiters and feature people who have something to contribute and something to give to our community. So I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful for the people who support him. Most importantly, I think I am grateful for you, the people who watch this. You don't have to do it. I mean, I listen to podcasts and watch TV probably much more than I should. I mean, I'm really into everything Tyler Perry and All Sisters and the Oval and the this and that. I'm into it. Um, and I love sports, football, and certainly, I'm grateful for the fact that Detroit has a football team, the Detroit Lions, and I of course wish them only the best. Now there are a number of teams that I follow and that I follow religiously, and I wish all of those teams, some of which are competitors for the Lions, the best. I wish the Buccaneers the best. Of course, I wish I'm grateful for Mahomes and for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm grateful for Aaron Rodgers, who's playing Detroit, I guess, tomorrow. And I was very happy and grateful for the fact that the Washington won this past week, because part of my family lives in Washington. My parents, my only aunt and uncle, who I consider my parents, are in Washington. So I always pull for Washington. And I like the Saints. I mean, there's so many things that I like that I'm grateful for. So I want you to think about the things that you're grateful for. The fact that you opened your eyes, the fact that you're able to smile, the fact that you're able to speak. These things are important because everybody can't, and everybody didn't open their eyes today. To many people, that today's date will be at the end of that dash, born this date, deceased that date. So I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for my dad, for my sister, my brother. I'm grateful for my daughter. I'm grateful for everyone in my family and everyone external to my family. I'm grateful for all of humanity, and I wish all of humanity certainly the very best, and that we're able to make decisions that are progressive and that matter, and that will make our lives better. So, if you have any concept or anything in your life that you are grateful for today, I'd ask that you just say that. Offer it up. Make that phone call. Say, Mom, I'm grateful for you. Dad, I'm grateful for you. Grandpa, I'm grateful for you. I just share that love. Express yourself, because of course no one knows what's going to happen in the next couple of minutes, quite frankly. So it's important that we always share our gratitude. And having said that today, on that note of gratitude, and the information that I've shared with you, please know that you can always watch us and listen to us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. I'm Attorney Linda Bernard, also Police Commissioner Linda Bernard for the great city of Detroit, and you are watching us on Cool TV, WJZZ, Cool TV, the coolest station in the nation and the world. Thank you. I think I'm okay. And if I'm not